From skies
to battlefields.
How the Wright brothers' invention shaped World War II.
Connection to Chicago.
The Navy repurposed the pier in Chicago into a large-scale training facility, taking advantage of Lake Michigan's secluded and protected waters to provide a secure environment for new recruits. This initiative led to the creation of the Naval Air Technical Training Center, NATTC, which offered comprehensive training in various critical airfields, such as radio communications, engine maintenance, airframe repair, weapons systems, and even culinary skills.
Over the years, the center trained more than 60,000 Navy, Marine, and Allied personnel, preparing them to support the complex operations of aircraft carriers at sea. The NATTC was not just focused on technical skills. It also featured a movie theater and expensive recreational facilities, ensuring that recruits remained physically fit and well-rounded throughout their training.
This combination of rigorous training and relaxation opportunities helped produce highly skilled and resilient personnel for naval service.
Thesis.
In 1903, the Wright brothers became famous for the first successful flight in world history. They had hoped that aviation would be used for science and a peaceful exploration of our global landscape.
However, a decade later, during World War I, it became clear that the military and conquest would guide achievements in aviation. World War II proved a great turning point in the power of aviation through advanced technology and military strategy, significantly defined by a nation's ability to build and use.
The Battle of Britain.
The Battle of Britain was a major conflict in World War II, where Britain was on the defensive, primarily using fighter aircrafts to protect its skies. In contrast, Germany employed a combination of bombers escorted by fighter planes to weaken Britain's defenses.
The main British fighter aircraft used in the battle were the Hawker Hurricane, Supreme Spitfire, and the Messerschmitt Bf-109. The Bf-109 was considered the most feared enemy aircraft during the battle due to its speed and firepower. The German Luftwaffe used a variety of aircraft, including the Messerschmitt Bf-109 as their primary fighter. They also employed bombers such as the Heinkel He-111, Dornier Do 17, and Junkers Ju 88, which carried out strategic bombing raids on British targets. Additionally, the Junkers Ju 87 dive bombers were used but could not have been more effective due to their vulnerability to faster British fighters. This proves that the Battle of Britain was a major conflict because so many bombings happening during it, killing lots of British.
Battle of Midway.
On June 4, 1942, despite minimal results from B-17 and PBY attacks on Japanese forces near Midway due to heavy anti-aircraft fire, reports indicate that several enemy ships, including a heavy cruiser and a transport, sustained damage. Japan, aiming to expand its territory and weaken U.S. influence in East Asia and the Pacific, sought to defeat the U.S. Pacific Fleet and capture Midway as a strategic launching point for later attacks on Pearl Harbor. The Battle of Midway, spanning June 3rd to June 7th, 1942, featured an engagement zone where American and Japanese forces clashed, while the U.S. torpedo bombers initially diverted enemy attention. The effectiveness of dive bombers was largely independent of the torpedo squadron's losses, revealing significant flaws in Japan's command and early warning systems.
A critical moment occurred at 10:25 a.m. on June 4th, while U.S. dive bombers sank 3 Japanese aircraft carriers within minutes, marking a turning point in the Pacific War and ultimately World War II, and leading to the U.S. counteroffensive. The defeat of Japan's 4 key carriers, which played a significant role in the Pearl Harbor attack, severely weakened the Imperial Japanese Navy.
Concurrently, at 6:20, Japanese aircraft inflicted damage on the Midway base, but U.S. Marine fighters under Major Floyd B. Parks managed to intercept, leaving with substantial losses.
Planes ultimately made the difference, as Japan lost because the U.S. sunk their aircraft carriers, making bombings near impossible. Depi Raid. In March 1942, as the UK continued its efforts in World War II, preparations were underway for the upcoming DP raid, highlighting air power's growing role in amphibious warfare. The raid, planned for August 1942, aimed to test Allied capabilities for a cross-channel invasion and would rely heavily on air support from the RAF, including fighters like the Hawker Hurricane and Supreme Spitfire, who were both major aircrafts in the Battle of Britain. These aircrafts were tasked with ensuring air superiority and protecting the assault force from Luftwaffe attacks, as well as providing ground support in bombing missions against German defenses. Despite the raid's failure and heavy Allied losses, the operation underscored the importance of air and ground coordination. It provided valuable lessons for future large-scale invasions, such as those in Normandy,
where integrated air support would become essential.
Battle of Kursk.
German pilots flying Messerschmitt Me 109s and Focke-Wulf FW 190s had a field day against their Soviet counterparts and their inferior Yakovlev fighters, with the Germans claiming 367 victories that day, making it the Luftwaffe's most successful day of air combat in the entire war.
However, despite this initial triumph, the groundwork for a German defeat at Kursk had already been laid, both air and on ground. The Battle of Kursk is often remembered for the massive aerial battles where planes collided with Soviet lines around the city.
Adolf Hitler saw it this way as well, even referring to his new tanks in February 1943 as a gigantic concentration of the newest offensive weapons. That would restore German dominance on the Eastern Front, yet tanks alone were insufficient. Without air support, the Germans lacked a crucial element needed for their planned blitzkrieg. Conclusion.
In conclusion, the battles using planes made a difference in World War II. The Battle of Britain, as it proved Germany could be defeated. The Battle of Midway, as it started the U.S. offensive part of the war. And the Battle of Kursk, because it put the Soviet Union on the offensive. And the Dippy Raid, which was the beginning of the end of the war.
In all these battles, planes had a massive impact on the outcome. Proving planes had a big impact on the war, the result ultimately came down to who had the better air force, making the battles much easier to win. The most popular planes were the Hawker Hurricane and the Supermarine Spitfire. Historical significance.
The invention of the airplane by Orville and Wilbur Wright represented one of the most important moments in history when on December 17, 1903, powered control flight was accomplished for the first time in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Transportation would never again be the same, as the Wright brothers' pathfinding achievements formed the foundation for modern aviation, which has since bridged the gaps between geographical divides of this world.
Equally as impactful, aircraft have become an integral part of warfare, commerce, and industry. The success of the Wright brothers spurred further advances in engineering, aerodynamics, and material science that inspired future innovators and changed the course of history forever.